December 3rd, 2020, Thursday evening. David Oranchak, a software developer in Virginia, sits at his computer, his dog Rosa by his side. For 14 years, he's been working on one of history's most famous unsolved puzzles, the Zodiac Killer's 340-character cipher. He's tried thousands of approaches, all failures. But tonight, something is different. On his screen, gibberish begins transforming into words. Trying to catch me, then. The gas chamber. After 51 years, through combinations of code-breaking software created by a Belgian programmer and mathematical variations generated by an Australian researcher, the cipher that stumped the FBI, the NSA, and thousands of amateur sleuths is finally being decoded. The message doesn't reveal the Zodiac's identity, but it reveals something else, his twisted mindset, his belief in an afterlife filled with slaves, his mockery of investigators, his complete lack of fear. I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner because I now have enough slaves to work for me. On December 5th, 2020, Oranchak, Sam Blake, and Jarl Van Eycke submit their solution to the FBI. On December 11th, the FBI confirms. After 51 years, the 340 cipher has been solved, but the Zodiac Killer's identity remains unknown. This is the story of America's most infamous serial killer. The ciphers he created to taunt police. The 5 confirmed murders that terrorized San Francisco. And the 3 amateurs who, during a COVID lockdown in 2020, accomplished what the world's most powerful intelligence agencies could not. They solved the cipher, but the mystery continues. December 20th, 1968, Lake Herman Road, Benicia, California. 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen are on their first date. It's supposed to be romantic, a Christmas concert at Hogan High School, followed by dinner. Instead, they drive to a secluded gravel turnout known as Lover's Lane. It's about 10:15 p.m. when they park. Shortly after 11:00 p.m., a passing motorist discovers their bodies. Betty Lou has been shot 5 times in the back while fleeing. David suffered a single gunshot to the head. The weapon, a .22 caliber pistol. No suspects, no witnesses, just 2 teenagers murdered in the dark. For 7 months the case goes cold. Then, on July 4th, 1969, Independence Day, he strikes again. Blue Rock Springs Park, Vallejo, California, just 2 miles from the first murder scene. 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 19-year-old Michael Major are sitting in a parked car around midnight. Another vehicle pulls up. The driver sits with lights off for several minutes, then suddenly drives away. Minutes later, the car returns. This time, the driver exits with a bright light, possibly a flashlight, and opens fire with a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Ferrin is killed. May survives, despite multiple gunshot wounds. 40 minutes later, at 12:40 a.m., a man calls the Vallejo Police Department. Nancy Slover, the police dispatcher, answers. The voice on the other end is calm, monotone, deliberate. He speaks slowly, methodically. Every time she tries to ask a question, his voice gets louder to drown hers out. He says, "I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. I also killed those kids last year." He's referencing the Lake Herman Road murders from December 1968. Nancy Slover becomes one of only 3 people to definitively hear the Zodiac's voice. She will never forget it. 3 weeks later, on August 1st, 1969, 3 Bay Area newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald, each receive identical letters. The letters are typed. They include details only the killer would know, and they contain portions of a cipher, a coded message split into 3 parts. The letters are signed with a symbol, a circle with a cross through it. The symbol of the Zodiac. The full cipher, called the Z408 because it contains 408 characters, includes this threat. If you do not print this cipher by the afternoon of August 1st, I will go on a rampage Friday night killing lone people in the night. On August 8th, 1969, just 1 week after the cipher is received, Donald and Betty Harden, a schoolteacher and his wife from Salinas, California, crack the code. The message reads, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." It continues, "When I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves." The cipher does not reveal his identity, but it reveals his motive, a twisted belief in an afterlife where his victims serve him forever. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac strikes again, this time with a different method. Lake Berryessa, Napa County, California. Brian Hartnell, 20 years old, and Cecilia Shepard, 22, are picnicking on a small island connected to the shore by a sand spit. It's a beautiful afternoon. Around 6:30 p.m., Cecilia notices a man watching them from the trees. Suddenly, he emerges wearing a black executioner-style hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes. On his chest is a white cross-circle symbol, the Zodiac symbol. He's carrying a gun. Hartnell thinks it's a .45. The man speaks calmly. He claims to be an escaped convict from Montana who killed a guard and needs their car and money to get to Mexico. He has brought precut lengths of plastic clothesline. He orders Cecilia to tie up Brian, then ties her up himself. He checks Brian's knots, tightens them when he finds Cecilia tied them too loosely. Brian still thinks it's just a robbery. Then the man draws a knife, 12 inches long. He stabs Brian 6 times in the back. He stabs Cecilia 10 times. Before leaving, he walks to Brian's car and uses a black marker to write on the driver's side door. Vallejo 12-20-68 7469, Sept 27-69-6, by knife, the dates and locations of his 3 attacks. His signature. At 7:40 p.m., someone calls the Napa County Police Department from a phone booth just blocks away. The caller speaks in the same slow, monotone voice Nancy Slover heard in July. He says, "I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters." Cecilia Shepard dies 2 days later from her injuries. Brian Hartnell survives. 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, the Zodiac kills for the last confirmed time. San Francisco, Presidio Heights neighborhood, an upscale area. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picks up a passenger around 9:30 p.m. The passenger asks to be taken to Washington and Maple Streets. When they arrive, the passenger shoots Stein once in the head with a 9 pistol. The killer then tears a piece of Stein's blood-stained shirt, possibly to wipe fingerprints from the cab. 3 teenage witnesses across the street watch the entire event and immediately call police. 2 San Francisco Police Department officers, Eric Zelms and Donald Falk, respond to the call. They pass a white male walking away from the scene, but the dispatcher has incorrectly described the suspect as black, so the officers don't stop him. They may have passed the Zodiac Killer on the street and let him walk away. On October 13th, the San Francisco Chronicle receives a letter from the Zodiac. Inside is a portion of Paul Stein's blood-stained shirt, proof that the writer is the killer. The letter says, "School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." The threat is never carried out, but the terror is real. In total, the Zodiac killed 5 confirmed victims between December 1968 and October 1969. 2 others, Michael Majo and Brian Hartnell, survived. The Zodiac claimed to have killed 37 people. This number has never been confirmed. Between 1969 and 1974, the Zodiac sent over 20 letters to newspapers, police, and prominent figures in the Bay Area. Some letters included ciphers. Some included pieces of victims' clothing. All were designed to taunt, terrify, and control the narrative. On November 8, 1969, the Zodiac mailed his most infamous cipher to the San Francisco Chronicle. It contained 340 characters arranged in a grid. The cipher was labeled Z340. For 51 years, no one could solve it. The Z408 cipher, solved in 1 week by a school teacher and his wife, had proven the Zodiac could create sophisticated codes. But it wasn't particularly difficult. Experienced cryptographers called it straightforward. The Z340 cipher was different. It arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle on November 8, 1969, less than a month after Paul Stein's murder. The Zodiac included it in a letter that read, "This is the Zodiac speaking. By the way, have you cracked the last cipher I sent you? My name is..." The cipher that followed contained 340 characters, 20 rows of 17 symbols each. It used 63 unique symbols, letters, backwards letters, astrological signs, Greek characters, Navy semaphore flag signals, and symbols that appeared completely invented. The FBI's cryptanalysis and racketeering records unit examined it. They couldn't solve it. The National Security Agency, home to the world's most advanced codebreakers during the Cold War, analyzed it. They couldn't solve it either. By the mid-1970s, when Zodiac's letters stopped, the Z340 remained unbroken. Investigators began to wonder, was it even real? Or had the Zodiac simply sent gibberish to waste their time? For decades, amateur codebreakers obsessed over the cipher. Online forums dedicated to the Zodiac case attracted thousands of members. Theories proliferated. Proposed solutions emerged regularly, but none held up under scrutiny. Every proposed solution required illogical gymnastics, ignoring whole chunks of the cipher, omitting inconvenient characters, or applying inconsistent rules. The problem was straightforward. The Z408 cipher used a simple substitution method. Each symbol represented one letter. The Z340 appeared to use the same method, but it didn't work. Cryptographers suspected the Z340 must use additional layers of encryption. But what kind? Transposition, where the order of characters is rearranged. Polyalphabetic substitution, where symbols change meaning based on position. A combination of methods. Without knowing the system, solving the cipher was nearly impossible. By the 2000s, the rise of computers brought new hope. Programmers created software to test millions of possible solutions automatically. But even with computational power, the Z340 resisted all attempts. Then came David Oranchak. In 2006, Oranchak, a software developer and amateur cryptography enthusiast, began working on the Z340. He was fascinated by puzzles, especially unsolved ones. He ran ultramarathons for fun. He approached problems with the patience of someone who understood that progress often required thousands of failed attempts. Oranchak created his own software to analyze the cipher. He studied patterns in the symbols. He tested theories proposed by other researchers. He posted videos on YouTube explaining his methods, debunking false solutions, and sharing insights. By 2020, Oranchak had spent 14 years on the Z340. He'd grown used to failure. "When I first started, I used to get excited when I would see some words come through," he later explained. They were like false positives, phantoms. In Belgium, Jarl Van Eycke was developing code-breaking software called a Z-decrypt. Van Eycke's program was designed to solve homophonic substitution ciphers, codes where multiple symbols can represent the same letter. A Z-decrypt could test thousands of variations rapidly, searching for patterns that suggested meaningful text. Van Eycke made his software available to Zodiac researchers. He continually refined it, adding features that allowed users to crib keywords. freeze certain words like kill in place while running permutations on other symbols. In Australia, Sam Blake, a mathematician and research fellow at the University of Melbourne, was stuck at home during Melbourne's 112-day COVID-19 lockdown in 2020. Masks were mandatory. Outside activity was limited to 1 hour per day. Otherwise, residents were confined to their homes. Blake, looking for interesting problems to occupy his time, discovered Oranchak's YouTube videos on the Z340. One video explored the idea that the cipher might be both a homophonic substitution cipher and a transposition cipher, meaning the symbols were first rearranged, then substituted. Blake had an idea. What if the Zodiac had rearranged the cipher in a specific geometric pattern before encoding it? What if you had to read the symbols in a non-standard direction, diagonally or in sections, before the substitution key would work? Blake commented on Oranchak's YouTube video, suggesting his mathematical approach. The comment was lost in the dozens of daily responses Oranchak received, but Blake persisted. He found Oranchak's email address and reached out directly. Oranchak was intrigued. Using the University of Melbourne's Spartan supercomputer, Blake began creating variations of the Z340. He rearranged the cipher in 650,000 different ways, different reading directions, different segment divisions, different geometric patterns. The idea was simple, but computationally massive. If the Zodiac had rearranged the cipher before encoding it, one of these 650,000 variations might reveal the correct reading order. Oranchak took Blake's 650,000 variations and ran them through Van Eycke's Z-decrypt software. Most produced gibberish, but Oranchak and Blake weren't discouraged. They were testing a theory. If even one variation produced recognizable words, they'd found something. On December 3rd, 2020, something extraordinary happened. Oranchak was testing a variation that divided the cipher into 3 segments and read the first segment diagonally, like a word search puzzle. When he ran it through a Z-decrypt with certain keywords frozen in place, partial phrases began emerging. Trying to catch me. The gas chamber. Oranchak jumped out of his chair. He probably scared his dog, Rosa. These phrases sounded like the Zodiac. They matched the tone of his previous letters and the Z408 cipher, but the solution was incomplete. Parts of the message still made no sense. Oranchak contacted Van Eycke directly. Van Eycke examined the partial solution and made brilliant observations. The cipher was divided into 3 segments, 9 rows, 9 rows, and 2 rows. The first segment used a diagonal reading pattern called period 19 transposition. Every 19th character was moved before solving. The second segment was read left to right without transposition. The third segment used the same substitution key as the first, but was read normally. And crucially, the Zodiac had made a mistake. On row 6 of the second segment, the letter H was in the wrong position. Once Van Eycke moved it 1 column over, the misspellings cleared up. The cipher's complete message emerged. I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me, that wasnt me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber, because it will send me to paradice all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradice, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid, because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradice death. The cipher included the Zodiac's characteristic misspelling. Paradice instead of paradise. The reference to that TV show referred to the Jim Dunbar Show, a Bay Area television talk show that had aired shortly before the cipher was mailed. On December 5, 2020, Oranchak submitted the solution to the FBI's Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit. On December 11, 2020, the FBI released a statement. The FBI is aware that a cipher attributed to the Zodiac Killer was recently solved by private citizens. The Zodiac Killer case remains an ongoing investigation for the FBI San Francisco Division and our local law enforcement partners. The solution was confirmed. After 51 years, the Z340 cipher had been solved, not by government agencies, but by three amateur codebreakers who found each other on the internet during a global pandemic. The Z340 solution does not reveal the Zodiac's identity. It does not provide clues to where he lived, what he looked like, or why he stopped killing. But it reveals something else, his psychology. The message is grandiose and messianic. The Zodiac believes he is accumulating slaves for the afterlife. He believes death will send him to paradice, a place where everyone else has nothing and he has servants. This belief echoes the Z408 cipher from 1969. When I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. The Zodiac is obsessed with control, even control beyond death. The cipher also reveals his intelligence. The Z340 is not gibberish. It's a sophisticated, multi-layered encryption combining homophonic substitution with non-standard transposition. The Zodiac divided the cipher into 3 segments with different reading rules. He used period 19 transposition, a complex method where every 19th character is shifted before encoding. He intentionally misspelled words to frustrate codebreakers, and crucially, he made a mistake. On row 6 of the second segment, the Zodiac placed one character in the wrong position. Without correcting this error, parts of the message remain garbled. With the correction, the entire message becomes clear. This mistake suggests the Zodiac created the cipher by hand. No computer assistance in 1969. He was working from a complex encoding scheme he designed himself, and he made a single transcription error. The fact that the cipher can be solved proves it was meant to be solvable, eventually. The Zodiac wanted his message read. He wanted to taunt investigators and assert his superiority. Creating an unsolvable cipher would defeat that purpose. But why was it so difficult? The Z408 cipher used straightforward substitution. Each symbol always represented the same letter. It could be solved with frequency analysis. The letter E appears most often in English, so the most common symbol in the cipher probably represents E. The Z340 used multiple techniques simultaneously. Homophonic substitution. Multiple symbols represent the same letter. This